You could have either guy for his whole career, right? You're a GM, you're putting together the all-time team. You got Stan Musial there, you got Ted Williams there. Who do you want to live with for 20 years?
You know, I might want to live with Stan for 3 reasons. First off, Williams is a little too particular at the plate. Bottom of the 9th, down 3-2, 3 balls and 2 strikes. You need the ball, hit the ball out of the ballpark, and he'll take a ball on the outside of the plate by a millimeter because, you know, Williams hitting was...
It's a science.
Williams was more interested in hitting than winning. So Musial probably was more wrapped up in the winning aspect. So because of that, I might take Stan. Throw in the other aspect of it, too. Williams was brutal with the press. And the press was brutal
and
to him.
tough with his own teammates, too. He wasn't like
difficult.
Whereas Musial was beloved by his own
and everybody
peers.
He was less of a distraction. Now he played
never a distraction.
He played in a town that is very soft media compared to Boston. There was no Dave Egan's in St. Louis in the 1940s. So you got to keep that in mind. But I think those 2 aspects, I might take Musial. But as far as the career is concerned, I think Williams is a little better hitter, so I put him number 1. Well, it's a very interesting debate. We did the left fielders. That will air on Saturday. They buried it. It's Saturday at 7 o'clock. 4th quarter of the Niners and Vikings in a 31-31 classic. You're flipping around, and there's all of a sudden Russo and Kenny breaking down left fielders. Okay. But anyway, I took Musial over Williams. Williams is better. He's a better hitter. But I think that point is well served. I do think that Ted is a little bit more into the science of the swinging the bat than he is realizing that in certain situations you got to go for the fences, you got to do things. And I think Musial understood that better than he did.
Yeah, in recent times, the same kind of criticisms we have of players like Joey Votto, Jason Giambi, other guys who were really technicians at the plate. I thought you were being generous, and don't get me wrong, we are talking about the greatest of the small room Hall of Famers that there is. Ted Williams was more than a little bit better of a hitter than Stan Musial. I'm sorry. The numbers are somewhat comparable. Ted Williams that's how great Ted Williams was. Stan Musial is an immortal. Ted Williams was that much better an offensive player. You have to take into account Stan Musial only missed 1 year in his playing career. Ted Williams missed 5, including 3 years in his mid-20s, and the numbers just don't stack up.
Williams is better. I'm not going to dispute that. But the question isn't who's better. We all agree that Williams is a better hitter. The question is, if you were building a team right now for the next 10 years, and leave Bonds out of it because we didn't put the steroid guy in there, so forget him. If you were building a team in the next 10 years with Bruce Shine, sign Williams to that 10-year contract in his prime or Musial.
Ted Williams.
And you got to look at the whole big picture, not just his abilities, because he is a pain in the neck, Williams. You can't dispute it. You've read the books. He's annoying.
It didn't seem to adversely affect him too much on the field, did it? I mean, look, I don't have a postseason resume to really go with. He played 1 postseason series in his life, and he played that with a broken elbow. Stan Musial was not a great postseason player, by the way, either. Now, that's not a huge sample size
he played in a couple of World Series.
But you know, be that as it may, no, that doesn't bother me in the least. Look, obviously, we're all infuriated that we can't incorporate names like Bonds. Bonds is in the conversation.
Oh, he is in the conversation.
Well,
his own fault, though.
He's one of the top 2 players, you know, if we're...
Here is the difference.
We're talking about one of the top 2 or 3 players of all time in the history of the sport.
Here is the difference about Bonds, though, Bruce. And you're talking about a guy who studied him forever. Bonds is an immortal because of steroids. He was an all-time great before steroids.
Yep.
He is not an immortal. The immortals are Ruth. That's an immortal. Williams is an immortal. Bonds was not that way before 99.
No.
He was a heck of a player. He was the best player, him and Griffey, in the sport. He was a wonderful athlete. He was a great left fielder. He was great everything, but he wasn't an immortal. Steroids made him an immortal. Now, Musial and Williams are immortals.
Right, and it's kind of problematic throughout this list because, you know, Manny Ramirez is somewhere in this conversation as well. Shoeless Joe Jackson, again, you know, you got to take into account the period that he played in, but he's part of the conversation. But when we know why his career ended, you know, when it did, when he was whatever he was, 30, 31 years old. I mean, there's a lot of guys that played that position that unfortunately aren't part of this discussion because of these outside.
Well, we didn't put Joe Jackson in there because obviously he's a dead ball hitter. He's a dead ball hitter.
Right.
Right.
So he wouldn't be part of this conversation.
This is 1920. So that's why we didn't put him in there. Bonds would be in there if it wasn't for the steroids. But you would take me, despite all the antics and all the distractions, and there were distractions with Ted, you take Williams over Musial.
Yeah, the numbers of the
issue is the distraction.
The
You'd put up with it.
The difference is that distinctive.
Yeah.